Hello, Jasmine, and thank you for being on time. Have you been keeping up with your readings, Jasmine? Let me know in the comments below, okay? Hello, Sean, thank you for being on time. Well done. And have you been keeping up with your readings? Hello, Jasmine, and thank you. Wow, where's everyone? All right, thank you, Jasmine. Well done. And by this time next week, so by the weekend, I hope that you would have finished reading all of Unit 6. Likewise, Sean, have you been keeping up with your reading? Let me know in the comments, okay? Wow, where's everyone? All right, Sean, I'll take your word for it. Thank you very much. Hello, Chloe. Welcome. Slightly late, but better late than never. Can't say the same for the Law brothers, but oh well. Hello, Kwohan. Hello, Esther. All right, where's Adam? Give it a couple more minutes, and at 1:05 on my clock, we will begin. One more minute. All right, likewise, Chloe, Esther, Kwohan, have you guys been keeping up with your reading? Let me know in the comments. And try and WhatsApp Adam here. Okay, Esther and Chloe, have you been keeping up with your readings? Okay, right, Chloe, okay, that's fine. All right, well done, Esther. 2 more pages to go before she finishes chapter 6. Okay, well done. All right, so let's begin today's class then. So just to recap, we are still continuing with chapter 6 or unit 6, crime, deviance, and social control. And just to recap, this is what we left off with last week, right? So what are the explanations of crime? So you got relative or material deprivation, masculinity, right, wanting to act out, and socialization, or rather the lack of socialization. Okay, so we're going to continue with that. So if you have your textbooks, please turn open to page 210. Okay, 210, and we'll pick it up from there today. Now, before we go any further, just to recap, okay, what are the 3 main perspectives on for sociology? Okay, so just to recap, this is what we have from chapter 1. Don't worry, we will go into chapter 1 in depth when you guys move up to level 3. So units 1, 2, and 3 will be left for level 3. Units 4 through 7 will be the focus for levels 1 and 2. Okay. Okay. All right. So first things first, you've got the functionalist perspective. Okay. So just to recap, functionalists emphasize social functions and ask, what function does this aspect of society carry out that keeps this society stable and allows it to continue? Now, we did Unit 5, for example, that's on education. So functionalists talked about, well, why is there the need for formal education, right? Why does it happen? And so we know that one already. And then Unit 4, why are we in families? Perhaps if we have time later on this academic year, we'll do a review of Unit 4, because like I said, I want to keep Units 1 through 3 for level 3, okay? So that's the functionalist perspective, and don't worry, you will have a pop quiz question at the end of this section. Okay. All right. So besides the functionalist approach, you also have the Marxist approach. So Marxism is the perspective that argues that in modern industrial societies like we are in today, it's based on this fundamental conflict, right? Conflict between different social classes. So you have this conflict between the haves, the bourgeoisie, versus the have-nots, proletariats. And we are seeing that conflict play out even right now, right? In today's world with the coronavirus. Well, hold on. I'm just trying to... there we go. Right, we are seeing that conflict play out in today's world as well. So people are just clamoring for financial aid from the governments to help them stay alive. Well, governments are saying, okay, fine, we want companies to protect jobs, but then companies are like, well, that comes at a cost to us when there's no money coming in. We can't do sales. Everyone's locked up at home, right? So that conflict is very, very evident. The conflict between the owners of property, of businesses, of industries, versus those who are called wage slaves, those who earn their daily wages, right? So that conflict is very evident right now. So we are seeing the conflict as highlighted by Marxists play out in modern industrial societies, okay? And then feminism. So feminists argue that it is men who control society and who have wealth and power in all aspects of society. And a society that is controlled by men is called a patriarchy. Okay? All right. So the pop quiz question. All right. So again, first one then gets a Kit Kat. I can't keep track of the Kit Kat count. I'll ask Ryan again. I'm sure, Esther, you're keeping track. I think Sean's got one and Esther's got like a gazillion. I don't know. Okay, but the question is this. According to the functionalist perspective, okay? According to the functionalist perspective, what do functionalists equate society to? Okay, so they liken society and the different functions and institutions and all the things that we see in society. Functionalists equate this to what? Okay, here's a hint. Well, kind of. Yeah. All right, so let me know in the comments. First one to get it right will then get to add to the Kit Kat count. Okay, so what do functionalists liken society or all the phenomenon and things that happen in society, what do they liken it to? Okay. Still waiting for an answer. Okay, so the question is, what do functionalists liken society to? I mentioned this in class before. First one to answer me correctly, gotta say Kit Kat. As you can see, oh, is it in the shot? No, it's not in the shot. No one? Here's a hint. Here is a hint. Yeah. Here's a hint. And no, the answer is not Mr. Han. No, Sean, not a complex system. I mean, it is a complex system, but what do they liken it to? So they liken, functionalists liken human society to what? Human society is kind of like this thing. Okay, well, so, okay, never mind. So the answer is human body, right? I've mentioned this in class before, right? So there's a reason the head is here, the eyes are here, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, all that, they all have certain functions. So all these organs, right, they have that specific function in order to keep the whole body going. So likewise, functionalists say that in society, education, family, socialization, crime, all these have different functions to make sure that society can run smoothly. Okay? All right. By the way, that is nice try, Kohan, but no. Okay, so that, for those of you who have your textbooks, you can read this on page 10 later on. Okay, but just so you know. All right. So with that said, let's come back to our lesson for today. So we are going to look at the different explanations of crime. Yeah. So for today, we're going to look at these ones. If we can just pull them up on the screen. All right. So you got a functionalist perspective. That's why I asked you the pop quiz question, just to get our minds refreshed. So there's a functionalist view, Merton's theory, Marxist theory, labeling theory. So that'll be our agenda for today. Let's see how much we can cover today. Okay. Yeah. Well, nice try, Kohan. But you retracted a message. But okay, I saw your message earlier. Okay. All right. So well done to everyone for trying. Okay. So let's start with the first one. Okay, functionalist. Well, guess what? Although many of us see crime as a bad thing, functionalists say, well, hold on. I mean, it's not all bad. Functionalists basically say you need a little bit of crime. Why? To teach the rest of us, or to teach the majority of society how to behave, right? Now is a good time. So now you got the MCO, this lockdown measures, right? You know you're not supposed to travel in a car with more than one person. You cannot just simply wander out of your home. I cannot just go hang out with friends, right? And if you do that, and we have seen some individuals do this, and then they get fined 1,000 ringgit. Some even went to prison. There was a gathering of like 16 teenagers about your age or slightly older at some apartment in KL somewhere. And so they got a tip off from the neighbors because they knew it was noisy. There's not normally that many people in that apartment. Police came. All of them went to jail for like 10 days, I think. Right? So when the rest of society sees that, they know, I should not break the rules. I should not break the law. I should behave, right, as my society expects me to, right? Why? Because if I don't do, if I break the law, if I don't obey the law, then I will be punished. So functionalists say that's the function of crime. Okay, there needs to be some level of crime in the society so that the rest of us knows how to behave. Okay, pretty straightforward. They see it as, for those of you who have the textbooks, page 210, it's socially necessary. Okay, crime is socially necessary, inevitable. Inevitable means somebody's going to do it anyways, right? It's going to happen, and it's beneficial. So never mind, let those who commit the crime, let them commit, but then it's beneficial for the rest of society. So it helps the whole body function properly. So it's kind of like getting sick. I mean, not coronavirus sick, but just getting a small illness, right? So you get a small flu, then your body builds immunity to it, right? So then the whole body can be stronger, right? So they liken it to crime. Well, they say crime is the same thing, rather. They say, okay, a little bit of crime, it's okay, right? So the rest of the body builds immunity to it. They know how to behave, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. You can read all that on your own. Okay. Now the second one, Sean says that sounds like they're lamb to the slaughter. Who was a lamb to the slaughter? The 16 in that apartment in KL? Maybe. Yeah. Okay. So that's the functionalist perspective. Okay, pretty easy. You just got to know what function does it play. Okay, not really right or wrong or a conflict that has to be rectified or resolved. Okay, now next one is Merton's theory. Now this is on page 211. Okay, so it ties in, or it ties in with some of the things that we mentioned last week. If you want a recap, you can just watch that YouTube video later as well. So the idea that, because of the American dream, just so you know, there's the American dream. That means you work hard, you're going to achieve success. Okay, that's the American dream. This sweet formula: work hard, you will achieve success. Okay, but then in reality, that's not really the case, eh? So it ties into what we learned last week in our last lesson. There's material deprivation, relative deprivation, all these other sociological forces that dampen your life chances. So as a result of that strain, okay, it's called a strain theory. That means you guys know what strain means, right? Like you're struggling just to reach it, but you just can't, right? So because of this strain between what we want versus what is possible, because there's this strain to get there, how do you alleviate that strain? You then turn to crime. I'm not saying you, but people then turn to crime. Okay, so that's essentially the Merton's theory. Okay, the idea that, well, you've been told that you can achieve material success, material wealth, if you just work hard. Well, many people in the factories are working 12 hours a day, multiple shifts, sometimes 6 days, 7 days a week, right? They're working hard, but they cannot achieve that material success. They see what they want, but there's a disconnect between what they want and what is possible. They strain for it. Man, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for the rest of my life and still never be rich. So what's a shortcut? How do I release this tension? How do I alleviate this strain? Turn to crime. Okay, so it ties in with material deprivation, relative deprivation, all that. So know all these concepts. Yeah, strain theory, material deprivation, relative deprivation. Okay, all that. It ties in with Merton's theory of deviant behavior. Okay. Now, obviously, with critical thinking, there are criticisms for Merton's theory. So the main criticism is that, well, it assumes that all of society, everyone is reaching for the same things, right? So does everybody want to be a millionaire, billionaire? No. I know of many people, several people personally, who have quit their jobs, their high-flying careers to do something that they really want. One of my former colleagues, I wasn't really close to him, but we worked together a little bit. He quit his job in the media industry to start a vegetable farm. Why? Because he wanted to work on his own time. Didn't want to do the whole clock in 9 to 5 thing. And then he sells his vegetables online on Lazada. All right. So there are things like that. Another kind of former boss from the media industry, he just sold everything that he wanted, all his material goods, like he sold his house, everything, his car, everything, moved to the Philippines, opened a dive shop because he just loved diving and just take pictures all day, right? So yeah, there are many instances like that show that, well, Merton's theory, is that really the case though? Is crime really just about that strain theory, about the deprivation, that people just cannot get material success? Because there are many people who don't want material success. They just want a comfortable life, right? So that's one of the main criticisms of the of Merton's theory of deviant behavior. Hi Adam, welcome. Better late than never. For whatever you missed, you can just rewatch this YouTube video later. Okay. Okay. Let me just stop right there. Everyone message in the comments, let me know if you understand so far the functionalist explanation for crime and also Merton's theory of deviant behavior or of crime. Okay, just let me know I understand the functionalist theory and also Merton's theory on crime. Okay, just let me know in the comments while I wait for your confirmation, each of you. Okay, Sean, you understand? Well done. The rest of you, if you got any questions, now is the time to ask. Kwon understands. Okay, good. Any questions before I move on? Okay, Jasmine understands. Well done. Esther, Chloe, do you guys understand? Okay, Chloe understands. Okay, waiting on confirmation from Esther, and then we're good to go. No questions, yeah? Esther, you still there? Okay, anyways, so one more thing, if you look at the bottom of page 211, there's this thing called status frustration. Now, this is not entirely new because we have kind of hinted at it before, but it is a good definition or a key term that you have to be aware of, okay? So, the definition of status frustration is on page 210, okay? So when people are unable to achieve the socially approved goals because of their position in society. So basically, they're frustrated with where they are in life, okay? Let's say they want to command respect, or they want to command riches, or have political power over people, right? But because of their lowly position, so at the end of the day, they're still just wage slaves. They just have to keep obeying the boss, right? So they're frustrated. So because, and no matter how hard they try, they cannot break outside of that status, okay? So as a result, they might turn to forms of crime to achieve higher status, okay? So for example, if let's say I was the leader of a gang, right? I strike fear in the hearts of people. I strike fear in the hearts of the cops, the authorities. Nobody wants to mess with me. You know, they are very wary and worried before they enter my territory, for example. Okay, but that's obviously a life of crime, as opposed to just being a lowly worker, 9 to 5. You know, wear tie, white collar job, sitting behind a desk in a cubicle, facing a screen all day. No one's gonna fear me. No one's gonna like really respect me. Or when I ask them to do something, they won't jump and do it, right? They'll just say, who cares? It's just sun, whatever, right? They might just blow me off. Okay, so these are some of the ways people act out against their status frustration. Okay, and if they want higher status, more power in society, but they cannot achieve it through socially approved ways, then they might turn to a life of crime. Okay, so that's at the bottom of page 211. So just know this, yeah. So the idea is that for Cohen, it's more about the collective, but for Merton, it's for individuals. Okay, you will notice this chart on, this table on page 211. Okay, I don't know if you can really see it. Don't have to go so in depth into it. Okay. Oh, I know it's a bit bright. Can you guys see this? Hold on. Let me see. Does this help? No, not really. But anyways, there's a table next to the. Here's better. This table next to the picture. Oh, here picture on page 211. Okay, so just have a good idea. I haven't really seen the IGCSEs go that in depth into this table yet, but like I said, you know, with Cambridge now straining to find new and creative ways to ask the same stuff in your textbooks, don't be surprised if it does come out. Okay. All right. So that's page 211. Now we move on to no, not this one. We go back here. All right, so we've done function list. We have done Merton's theory. Now let's go on to the Marxist theory of crime. Now, this pertains to what we have mentioned. So a lot of this is intertwined, right? It's just how you split them up. So like, for example, masculinity, that ties in with status frustration as well. Right, so I gotta be like for somebody who's timid, right, may not get power, they're frustrated with their status, so they might have to revert to overt shows of masculinity, violence, right, and crime, deviant behavior, obviously, to try and gain that elevated status. So that status frustration might be manifested through overt masculinity, okay, or at least deviant masculinity. Okay, so all this is very much intertwined. Okay, we come back to Marxist theories of crime. So this pertains to what we had mentioned last time as well with, remember the example I gave about political leaders, then those in power, right, being able to label someone else a criminal, okay, and so as a result keep the bourgeoisie and the proletariat separate, okay. The bourgeoisies are the haves, the proletariats are the have-nots, right? So those in power can use the law or their definitions of crime to keep these guys opposed, okay, be it politically, like we mentioned in the last class, but also in terms of the workplace, okay. So I think I used this example before, but I use it again. So a union, for example, there are many countries and many states in the US, for example, that says that having a union or being part of a union is illegal, okay. You cannot work in this state or in this country if you're part of a union. So that's one way Marxists say, see, that's one way that those in power break up those who are subservient, the proletariat, and keep them weak, okay. Obviously, if they gang together and form a union, they'd be a lot stronger, right? If they went on strike, if they protested, then the power is gone, right? Then the business is gone, right? If they striked or protested. So when the government says that being part of a union is illegal, then everybody's just fending for themselves, okay. So the Marxist view is that, look, the ruling class, the government, they make the laws, okay, they protect their interests so that the proletariats, they are just weak, okay. Now, critical thinking, well, the criticism against the Marxist approach is that, well, not really, because there are many laws that are passed to protect the interests of everyone, right? So the laws that are being passed right now, some might, the really staunch Marxists maybe might say that, see, this is how you guys are suppressing our liberties, right? Our personal freedoms. Why we cannot go out of the house, lockdown, MCO, blah, blah, blah. Only essential services, only banks are allowed to operate and make their money. But the small and medium enterprises, SMEs, not allowed to run their businesses. Why? Okay, or palm oil estates. Oh, you guys can keep running. Why? Because you guys are multi-billion-dollar business. What about the small businesses? Okay, but then the criticism will be like, well, if the banks don't run, then money cannot flow. But the idea is that most people are on lockdown so that we can help fight this virus, for example. Okay, or there are many laws that are in place, right, against child abuse or speed limit. Kids not working, making sure you guys go to school, right? All that is to protect the well-being of society. So that would be the criticism against the Marxist approach to crime. The reason crimes are labeled a crime is so that society can be preserved, right? Well-being. There can be a harmonious society, right? Don't steal other people's stuff so that the rest of society can carry on. Don't kill one another. Don't defame someone online, blah blah blah. All these rules, all these laws are in place, are seen to be preserving the well-being of society, right? So that would be the main criticism of the Marxist view on crime. Okay. All right. Last but not least, let's look at. So we've done relative deprivation. We'll look at labeling theory, all the way at the bottom there. Okay. This is on page 214. Okay, now, so this one starts with the idea that because society has labeled an individual as potentially deviant or a potential criminal, and then as a result, that individual, that member of society then lives up to that label, okay? It's often called a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. It's tied in to this concept of the labeling theory. Self-fulfilling prophecy, that's on page, I wish I had this prepared, it just came to mind, I apologize. Self-fulfilling prophecy, oh, it's not in the, okay, anyways, we may have gone through it already in units 4 and 5, but just so you know that, when you have this prophecy, right, that means you forecast what's going to happen in the future, all right, and then if the person actively fulfills it, then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we got this idea that this is going to happen in the future, so then I act out. Okay, self-fulfilling prophecy. So that is part of the labeling theory as well. The idea there is that some people are then given this label of deviant or potential criminal, and then they live up to that label. So, for example, ethnic minorities, right? We in Malaysian society has that prejudice as well, the bias, right? Oh, Indonesian, Bangladeshi, Nepali, right? All these foreign workers who come to Malaysia and do these jobs that we don't want, they're then given a label. They come in a form gangs, they overrun the visa and then they commit crime. Okay, that can be an example. Because they don't integrate into mainstream society, so mainstream society gives them the label, and then if the labeling theory is true and you apply it, then some of these individuals might then live up to that label, right? And it becomes this vicious cycle. Because mainstream society then says, they are deviant, they're not part of the majority, I'm going to give them a label, and as a result, I don't give them their fair shot at life chances, right? I don't give them white-collar jobs. Many of them are educated, have the skills that people need, but just because they may not have the culture or the same language skills, or don't use the same code as the rest of mainstream society, they're then labeled as such. So because they're labeled as such, they don't have those kind of life chances. So then what happens? According to the labeling theory, because these individuals have been told you're not going to make it, you're deviant, you're going to be criminals, and you act out. Okay, that's the vicious cycle of the labeling theory. Okay, I remember this story from when I was much younger. So my father had a license. This was his former business, to bring in foreign workers from around the world. Obviously Indonesia is a big source of foreign workers. But then there was one lady in particular who obviously had I think even a college education, but she spoke English well. She could do more than just what a domestic maid can do. So as a result, then my father then promoted her. So instead of bringing her in to just be a maid, which was the case initially, then she was made office administrator, and then she was actually there handling meetings for my dad, right? All these top business meetings and all that. So there's an example of how the opposite of labeling theory. Okay. But yeah, labeling theory is that whole point, that the person then does as their label. Okay, so it's the consequences of this person being labeled. Okay, now if you look at the definitions on page 214. Okay, so tell you what, I apologize for not bringing this up on the screen earlier. Let me try and do this right now. Okay, and let me just pull out all these definitions for Chloe. Once I can. Oh, hold on, just give me a second while I edit this. Give me 30 seconds, hopefully. Okay. Hopefully it's big enough that you can see it on the screen as well. Okay, let's try this. Oh, is my internet not working? There we go. Okay, so let's pull this up. Okay. I know it's a bit tiny, but let's try to zoom in a little bit. There we go. Oh, too much. Okay, so labeling. The way in which acts and people are defined as deviant by the social reaction to their behavior. Okay, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully you guys can understand that. So the idea is that labeling can give a master status, a status that overrides all others and becomes the way that individuals see themselves and are seen by others. So for example, for say the foreign labor that comes into Malaysia, right? Mainstream society might give them the master label of this person is foreign worker, right? Cheap labor. They don't see them as a father. They don't see them as a good man or woman. They don't see them as a son or daughter of of their parents back home. They don't see them as sole breadwinner or provider for their family back in their home country. What is the master status? Oh, cheap labor. Right, then as a result, the life chances and the way we treat them, the social reaction to their behavior is all defined by this master status. Okay, so just know these terms that are on page 214. Okay, so if these labels are negative and it leads to a loss of status, leads to rejection, loss of life chances, then because these people are denied the means to attain material success, to climb higher in society, to get a higher status. So because of that, they may turn to a deviant career. Okay. One more, our deviant career is right down there. Not as important, but deviant amplification. This is the important one. Okay, when responses to deviance creates further deviance. So you see this with, like, say, protests, especially in emerging countries, okay? Third world countries where, someone, like, say, the government or whoever is in power then labels a group as deviants. And the deviant says, like, no, we're not, how dare you? And then they react, and then because they're frustrated and they're angry, and then they protest. And then by definition, it's a crime, so it just then becomes this spiral that goes out of control. So you see this time and time and time again, all right? So that's an example of deviancy amplification. So you respond to the deviance, then you create more deviance, and then becomes you kind of see a little bit now in some of these online videos of people getting into fights in supermarkets and whatnot, right? So somebody will label, say, this person who's hoarding all the toilet paper in the supermarket, right? I was like, that's deviant behavior, right? Don't hoard the toilet paper. But then the person then fights back, saying, no, it's not deviant behavior, right? They go, oh wait, hold on. Yep. So then they say, no, that's not deviant behavior. Then they fight back, and the person then fights back. Then becomes this endless loop and becomes this big fight in the supermarket, and it goes viral online, right? So that's just a bit of a throwaway example, but it's a contemporary example. Hopefully you can relate to it more. Okay, but that's an example of deviancy amplification. Okay, so somebody labels something as deviance, right? Then they respond to it, and it's deviance, and deviance means deviance, then becomes this big mess. It becomes amplified. Okay, so deviancy amplification. All right, so that brings us up to 40 minutes for this class. Just one last thing to wrap up today's lesson. So just know that labeling, the act of labeling, obviously comes from the person in power, right? So it can be your parents, label you and your siblings. This son very good one, that daughter very naughty one, whatever. Or my daughter's very good in studying, my son not so much, right? So when you have these labels, now you can respond to it by being deviant, or you can say, the person in power, my parents, my teacher, whoever, okay, has labeled me as such, so I just follow lah. Okay, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so just know that the person who labels the other person is usually in a position of power. Okay, all right, so that's it for today's class. If you got any questions, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll just leave it there for today. And then by next week, I think we can finish all of Unit 6. So please read in advance. By this weekend, I want all of you to have finished reading all of Unit 6. Right? Because you and I both know that you have the time. It's just whether or not you have the will. Okay? If you got any questions, let me know in the comments. Sorry, I haven't been able to check the comments because I had it switched off to look at the or try to bring up that definition of labeling and master status and deviancy amplification. Okay, so before you go, just let me know in the comments. Say thank you, Mr. Han. I understand today's lesson. Goodbye. If you have any questions, just let me know. Okay. I'll leave it on for a couple more minutes. No, Chloe, TY does not suffice. Please type out the full text saying thank you, formal code, please. Okay, Esther says, can you repeat deviant career, please? Okay, so the idea that because you are then labeled, or someone is labeled a deviant, and then they keep doing it, right? And then it becomes a career. That's all it is. A career means, well, in the professional world, if you have got a career, it means that you've been paid to do something, and you're obviously successful enough at it that you can keep getting paid or keep doing this particular thing for a long time. So, for example, I had a career in the media. I mean, granted, I left it because I wanted higher pay. There's limited chances in the media, but in the media industry. But I had a career in media, so the idea was that I was able to keep doing the same things in the media industry and then get paid for it, right? So the idea is that if you have a deviant career, that means your career you can keep doing the same deviant behavior over and over and over again. Okay, so that's all it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Adam, Esther, let me know if that suffices. It's really simple, really. Sean, Adam, Jasmine, Chloe, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, just know one more thing. Yeah, make sure you read the criticisms against the. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, criticisms against the labeling theory on page 215. They are the bullet points. They're those 5 bullet points. Okay, the main criticism is that you have a choice. Right? These humans have a choice how they respond to that label, and whether they want to keep doing it. Right? So I think the labeling theory ignores that. It just assumes that we're just robots. Okay, label, slapped on our forehead. Okay, I'm just going to follow mindlessly. Okay. Yeah. All right, that's it. Well, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Yeah, don't forget to read all of Unit 6, yeah?